Trevor's going instead of you. He'll make the trip more exciting and his Instagram photos are better. That was the message. After I'd spent $28,000. After I'd planned every detail, I didn't reply. I just stared at my screen, blinked once, and realized I'd been erased. So I did what they never saw coming. I stood up and walked out. People think betrayal comes like a storm. Loud, violent, impossible to ignore. But mine arrived in a single text, sent by my own mother. No warning, no apology, just a declaration that I, the person who had paid for everything, was being replaced by my sister's fiancé because he'd take better pictures for their social media. I'm 32, a senior project manager at a commercial signage firm in Fort Worth, Texas. I wasn't handed this career. I earned it one burnt palm, one missed holiday, one 16-hour shift at a time. My first job was installing billboards in the middle of Texas heat waves, climbing steel scaffolds, while the metal baked under a 105-degree sun. I still remember the pain, the burn through my gloves, the way my sweat turned to salt lines on my shirt. But I showed up, every single day. While other people chased shortcuts, I climbed literally and metaphorically. Today I oversee multi-million-dollar projects across the state, stadiums, corporate campuses, shopping centers. I've delivered over $1.3 million in contracts just last quarter on time under budget. I make good money. I don't flaunt it. I drive a 12-year-old 4Runner with 187,000 miles. I still pack lunch in a glass container every morning. I wasn't born into wealth. I built safety through structure. And then I handed that safety to my parents because they asked. COVID wiped them out. My dad, once a 6-figure construction sales rep, lost everything almost overnight. My mom, who hadn't held a real job in over a decade, claimed she was focusing on her candle business, a business that somehow consumed every dollar it touched and left nothing behind but glitter dust and unpaid Etsy invoices. When their landlord sold the house they'd been renting, they were weeks away from being homeless, so they called me. Just until we get back on our feet, my mom had said. I'd recently bought a small condo, a 2-bedroom investment property I planned to rent out. I was careful with money. I'd locked in a great mortgage rate, calculated ROI, checked the school zones. It was never meant to be a charity project, but I offered it to them anyway. $800 a month, less than a third of market rate, just enough to cover part of the mortgage and HOA. I told myself it was the right thing to do. That was 4 years ago. Since then, they've skipped more payments than they've made. The total back rent they owe me is nearly $15,000. But when I bring it up, I'm the villain. Why are you acting like we're your tenants? We're family, not some financial transaction. Meanwhile, they bought a brand new SUV through backyard BBQs with 20 guests and somehow managed to install granite countertops in a kitchen I technically still owned. The final insult arrived 2 years ago. My younger sister Megan moved in. She's 26, has a marketing degree and zero work ethic. Thinks she's a visionary because she once made a Canva template go viral on Pinterest. After getting kicked out by her roommates, surprised she wasn't paying rent. She landed at my parents' place like a falling star. Brash, entitled, and absolutely allergic to accountability. She tried freelancing as a social media consultant. Lasted 3 months. Now she works at some boutique agency making $42,000 a year, but spends like a trust fund princess. Every time I'd visit, she'd have new lashes, fresh nails, and enough Lululemon to stock a retail display. She started calling me Miss Corporate, like success was something to be ashamed of. Every time I reminded them about the rent, my mom would roll her eyes and say, "We're doing our best. Why are you always keeping score?" Because I had to. Because I was bleeding thousands of dollars for people who didn't even say thank you. Then came the turning point. My dad retired last March. His knees were shot from years of site visits and ladder climbing. He couldn't stand for long, couldn't sleep through the night. But he always had one dream: to see Dubai, not just as a tourist, as a builder, a man who loved concrete and steel. He had a massive coffee table book filled with photos of the Burj Khalifa and the Dubai skyline. He'd show it to anyone who would look. That city meant something to him, like proof that vision and structure could coexist. So I made it happen. 10 days in Dubai, $28,000 out of my own pocket. First class on Emirates, a 4-star hotel near the Burj. I even reached out to my old college friend James, an engineer who now lives there, to show us the real city, the soul behind the skyscrapers. When I announced the surprise at dinner, my dad's face cracked. For a second, he looked like the man I remembered, strong, proud, humbled by something good. And then Megan ruined it. She asked if Trevor could come. Trevor, her fiancé, the walking startup pitch, the human version of a crypto scam ad. His LinkedIn profile reads like a parody account, serial entrepreneur, venture disruptor, CEO of strategy. What he actually does, no one knows, including him. He's the kind of guy who wears a Patagonia vest over a turtleneck in 90-degree weather, calls himself a founder, and orders truffle fries, while pretending to forget his wallet. When I said no, they called me selfish. Mom said, but Trevor's basically family. Dad said he could make valuable business connections there. Megan called me jealous. I reminded them it was my trip, my gift. Already maxed out financially. I thought the conversation ended there. I thought they understood. I was wrong. The shift didn't happen all at once. It was slow, like ice cracking beneath your feet, quiet at first, almost harmless, until it wasn't. 2 weeks before departure. I was finishing paperwork on a $750,000 signage contract when my phone buzzed, a text from my mom. We've decided Trevor is going on the trip instead of you. He's more fun and will take better photos for social media. Your father agrees he'll be better company than you. I stared at the screen. For a moment, I thought maybe it was a joke or a test, some cruel way of making a point. I texted back one word. What she replied like I'd asked for clarification on a dinner recipe. You're always so serious. This is a celebration. We want someone lighthearted. You can take a trip another time. The words blurred on my screen, not from tears, just heat, pressure. The kind of emotional heat that starts at the base of your spine and spreads until you're fully on fire. I closed my laptop, stood up, and walked to the office window. Below me, the downtown skyline shimmered in the Texas sun. I'd built my life brick by brick, no shortcuts, no handouts. And these people I had carried for 4 years. They had just cut me out of my own gift. And for what? For Trevor, the man who once told me crypto would replace banking by 2023 and offered me a stake in his next venture if I covered his brunch tab. The man whose entire business pitch was just verbal soup synergy, co-living innovation, platform ecosystems. I remembered something Trevor had said offhand at Thanksgiving. One of my frat bros works TSA at DFW. Said if I ever needed a favor, he'd take care of it. At the time, I'd laughed. Now it clicked. They weren't just cutting me out. They were trying to replace me. Literally. My stomach dropped as I realized the depth of it. I called Emirates immediately, pretending I just needed to confirm my seat. The rep on the line checked, then hesitated. Yes, Ms. Thomas, you're checked in already. You're set to depart in 3 hours. Checked in. I was standing in my office 20 miles from the airport. My blood went cold. I asked to speak to a supervisor. They connected me to Emirates' fraud department. Turns out a woman named Megan had called the airline a week ago claiming I had a medical emergency. She asked to transfer the ticket to a family member named Trevor. But Emirates doesn't allow name changes after check-in. So their brilliant plan, have Trevor use my ticket, my boarding pass, my identity, and somehow slide through security. This wasn't petty anymore. This was criminal. They weren't just backstabbing me. They were committing identity fraud. I took a breath, a long one, let the silence of my office soak in, and then I did what they never expected me to do. I got to work. I called Emirates back and formally flagged the return tickets for fraud review. Since everything was booked under my name and my credit card, I had leverage. We'll begin an internal investigation immediately, the rep said. I requested cancellation of all return flights and asked for security review flags on Trevor's passport. Then I logged into Booking.com, canceled the hotel, called every single tour operator, the desert safari, the city tours, the private dinner cruise. Each cancellation felt like a stitch being removed from a wound that had been stitched shut too tight. Then I called James, my college friend who lived in Dubai and was supposed to be our local guide. I told him everything. He whistled. "That's brutal," he said. "But honestly, they deserve whatever happens next. Dubai is no joke if you're broke and unprepared." He was right. A taxi from the airport, $50. A basic dinner, $75 per person. No return flights. Good luck. They were flying into a luxury dream with no reservations, no backup plan, and no clue. But I wasn't done. That night, I invited Matt, my best friend since college, over to my place. He brought pizza and his friend Ryan, who happens to be a locksmith. By 10 p.m., the locks on my rental property were changed. We installed a smart keypad on the front door and set up exterior cameras. Then I called a property management company I'd worked with professionally and had them draft a formal lease at market rate. $2,850 a month. Utilities not included. First and last month due upon signing. Next morning, I called my real estate attorney, told him everything from the missing rent to the flight fraud. He didn't even blink. "Let's file the eviction," he said. "And also, you may want to consider identity theft charges. That's not just unethical, that's a felony." I nodded. The plan was no longer just revenge. It was justice. Cold, clean, legal. I filed a police report for identity theft and misuse of personal information. I brought screenshots, text messages, booking confirmations, flight records, dates, names, everything. The officer at the desk looked impressed. "You'd be surprised how often people try this," he said, "but most victims don't have this kind of documentation." I also contacted Emirates again and explained the full picture. They were horrified, promised to launch a full internal review, and then I waited. I waited for the moment they would land in Dubai, jet-lagged, entitled, and about to be absolutely wrecked by reality. They thought I'd roll over. Instead, I rolled up my sleeves. They landed in Dubai at 7:03 p.m. local time. I knew that because I'd tracked the Emirates flight online while sipping chamomile tea in my kitchen. No hotel shuttle waiting, no guide, no itinerary, no return flight. Just heat confusion and a country they didn't understand. I imagined Megan in her athleisure set dragging 2 oversized pink suitcases through the airport, her phone battery dying, panicking, because the Instagrammable skyline wasn't appearing on cue. I imagined Trevor, smug, clueless, already trying to network with airport staff like he was in a WeWork lobby instead of a foreign customs hall. I imagined my parents standing there, flustered, realizing that the daughter they replaced had also been the glue. I didn't pick up their first call, or the second, or the 7th. Instead, Matt came over. We ordered pizza and pulled up the spreadsheet I'd started building every dollar they owed me, every missed rent, every expense, dates, screenshots, notes, receipts, timestamps. By the time we were done, the total was staggering $14.70 in missed rent, $1.20 in late utility fees I'd covered, $4,200 in canceled vacation costs, and now, identity theft. Matt whistled low. "That's not a spreadsheet. That's an obituary." I laughed. My phone was blowing up. Texts, missed calls, voicemails. We read them out loud between bites of pepperoni. "Megan, WTF, did you do? The hotel says there's no reservation. Call me now. Trevor." This is extremely unprofessional and potentially illegal. My attorney will be in contact. "Mom, please call us. We don't know what to do. You're putting your father's health at risk." "Dad, this isn't funny. Fix it. You can't just abandon your family in a foreign country," I replied with one message. "Enjoy Dubai with Trevor. I hear he's more fun than I am." Then I turned off my phone. And I slept, really slept, the kind of peaceful, guiltless rest I hadn't felt in years. No anxiety, no obligation, no simmering resentment, just silence. The next day, I met with my attorney again. He'd already drafted the official eviction notice. The new lease had been sent. Terms clear, market rate, rent $2,850 month. First and last month due immediately. Utilities not included. 30 days to sign or vacate. They were still in Dubai, thousands of miles away, while their free ride in Texas had an expiration date now in writing. And it didn't stop there. While they stumbled through five-star dreams on a dollar store budget, I made one more call to the detective handling my case. I forwarded all the messages where Trevor admitted he'd be taking my place and where Megan explained they had everything handled. I handed over my Emirates ticket receipt, flight logs, the cancellation confirmations. I gave the detective more evidence than most fraud cases ever start with. He didn't even try to hide his reaction. Honestly, this is one of the cleanest identity theft cases I've seen. These text threads are gold. Meanwhile, Emirates had begun their own internal investigation. They confirmed that Trevor had used my digital boarding pass and an ID that didn't match mine. But here's where it got really interesting. Remember that TSA buddy Trevor bragged about? Turns out he actually existed, and he'd been the one to wave Trevor through with minimal verification. Emirates flagged the incident as a security breach, the TSA agent under review, and Trevor now on record with a major international airline as having fraudulently boarded a flight. All this, and they hadn't even gotten to the fun part yet. Matt and I had placed bets. How long until Megan ran out of money? How soon before Trevor pawned his luxury Rolex, which we both knew was a knockoff? The answer came on day 3. I turned my phone back on. More voicemails, dozens of texts. This one from Megan made me spit out my coffee. We had to call Trevor's dad to wire emergency funds. His card got declined and mine won't work internationally. The hotel we found has cockroaches and no air conditioning. Trevor broke his arm falling off a camel. Mom is crying. I hope you're happy. Then Dad followed up. I can't believe you left us like that. We had to sleep in the airport. Your mother is traumatized. Megan is sick. Trevor is injured. Fix this, or you'll regret it. I didn't respond. Not yet. I was too busy walking the property with my real estate agent. We were going over paint samples. Because once I got them out, the place would need work. They weren't tenants anymore. They were a cleanup project. They landed back in Texas 5 days later. No fanfare, no souvenirs, just rage. They arrived in an Uber, no cars, no welcome home. And there I was, standing in my driveway, coffee in hand, Matt beside me. We'd parked my 4Runner and Matt's Tacoma side by side blocking the driveway, just enough to send a message. They got out looking sunburnt, disheveled, and utterly broken. What the hell was that? My dad growled. I took a slow sip of my coffee. That I said. That was the sound of consequences. My dad stormed out of the Uber first. His face was lobster red, whether from the desert sun or pure rage, I couldn't tell. Probably both. Mom followed, looking rattled, her curls flattened from long-haul humidity. Megan trailed behind them, eyes hidden behind oversized sunglasses, dragging her suitcase like it had betrayed her, too. And Trevor, my replacement, came last with his arm in a makeshift sling that looked like it had been fashioned from a hotel bedsheet in desperation. They looked like characters from a survival show, except all they'd survived was their own entitlement. "You stranded us in a foreign country," Dad shouted, marching toward me. "We could have died." I sipped my coffee. "Yet, here you are." I nodded toward Trevor's sling. "-1 working arm, I see." Trevor stepped forward, limping slightly like a wounded soldier in a Patagonia vest. "You realize this is actionable, right?" he said. "I have contacts at 3 major law firms who'd take this case pro bono." Matt snorted. "Do these law firms also do camel-related personal injury?" He motioned to the dish towel tied around Trevor's elbow, because that sling screams DIY regret. Trevor's eyes narrowed. "This isn't over." "No," I said. "It really is." Megan pushed her sunglasses up and stepped into the conversation like she was walking onto a stage. "We had to call Trevor's dad for money. You embarrassed us. You humiliated our family. Almost as humiliating as being uninvited from the trip I paid for." I tilted my head. "Or watching someone try to impersonate me at an international airport." Her voice cracked. "We just wanted it to be fun. You always make everything about business, about control." "You're right," I said. "Let's talk business." I reached behind me and pulled a thick envelope from the mailbox. Inside are 2 things: a lease agreement and an eviction notice. Mom's face went pale. "You're evicting us." "You had 30 days to respond. That was 3 weeks ago. So yes, effective immediately, you have 5 days to vacate my property, or the sheriff will help you pack." Trevor scoffed. "This is illegal. We have rights." No tenants have rights. You were never on a lease, and month-to-month arrangements can be legally terminated with proper notice. It's all spelled out black and white. Dad took a step forward, his voice quieter now, almost gentle. Sweetheart, this is extreme. We're family. I held his gaze. No. You decided we weren't family when you disinvited me from my own trip, when you let that fraud use my name to board a plane. You stopped being family when you chose convenience over character. Mom reached for my hand. I stepped back. We were desperate, she said. We didn't mean to hurt you. You weren't desperate. My voice was calm, steel beneath silk. You were comfortable. You thought I was permanent, unlimited, forgiving, disposable. They fell silent. For the first time, maybe ever, they looked small to me. Not in stature, in spirit. Trevor tried one last time. This is going to follow you. People are going to know what kind of daughter you are. I smiled. Let them. I'd rather be called heartless than spineless. Megan's voice cracked again. You've ruined everything. You want us on the street? Is that it? I took a slow step forward and looked her directly in the eyes. I want accountability, but you wouldn't recognize it if it bit you. You're not being punished. You're experiencing a sliver of what it feels like to be treated like less, like your comfort isn't guaranteed, like your labor doesn't get applause. They didn't respond. And by the way, I added, turning toward the door, the locks have been changed. If you need to access your belongings, you'll need to go through the property manager listed on page 3. Trevor looked stunned. You changed the locks? Yes. While you were busy falling off camels and burning through someone else's emergency fund. That night, I got more texts. Mom, please, don't do this. Just give us one more month. Dad, what happened to the daughter who used to care, Megan? You're destroying our lives for a vacation. Grow up. I didn't answer. Instead, I forwarded every message to my attorney. The next morning, we filed the official eviction paperwork with the court. And while that process played out, something else moved forward behind the scenes, the criminal case. Trevor had committed identity fraud. He had used my personal data, my digital boarding pass, to impersonate me. The airline flagged his passport, the TSA agent who let him through under federal review, and the case was now sitting on the desk of a district attorney who did not take kindly to security breaches involving international flights. My lawyer explained it best. Let the courts handle the eviction. Let the law handle the fraud. And you live your life. So I did. I reactivated my dating profile. Started morning yoga again. Booked a solo trip to Costa Rica. No Instagram, just peace. My phone kept buzzing for days. Threats, begging, accusations. I silenced it all. Because power doesn't always come from shouting. Sometimes it comes from walking away. And not looking back. The courthouse smelled like stale coffee and printer toner. The judge was a woman in her 60s, sharp eyes, no-nonsense voice, the kind of person who's seen every sob story and manipulative plea and doesn't flinch. My attorney presented everything: the eviction notice, the ignored lease offer, the missed payments, the property damage, the photos, the spreadsheet, all of it. Megan sat 2 rows behind us, arms crossed, jaw clenched, like she was auditioning for a courtroom drama. My parents flanked her, worn down and sullen. No sparkle, no Instagram energy, just entitlement in decline. Trevor didn't come, probably on the phone trying to reinvent himself again. When my dad stood to speak, his voice cracked. Your Honor, this isn't just a rental dispute. This is family. We've lived there for years. We're not squatters. The judge didn't even look up from her papers. Sir, family status has no legal bearing on tenancy rights. You were not on a lease. Your daughter provided housing well below market value for years. That's called generosity, not obligation. Mom tried to jump in, but he's retired. He needs knee surgery. And medical issues are unfortunate, the judge interrupted, but they do not override property law. This is a civil court, not a hospital. Then Megan spoke. We were set up. She did this out of revenge over some vacation. She's making us homeless because she didn't get her way. The judge stared at her like she'd just admitted to stealing from a church. Young lady, you had every opportunity to resolve this. You chose to ignore legal notices. You do not get to cry foul after 4 years of non-payment. Her gavel came down. Judgment in favor of the plaintiff. The defendants have 5 days to vacate the property. This court is adjourned. They didn't move. I stood up slowly, walked past them. Mom grabbed my wrist. You can't do this to us. Where are we supposed to go? I turned to her. That's not my responsibility anymore. Maybe try asking Trevor. He's practically family, right? She let go. Outside the courtroom, I handed my father an envelope. He looked at it like it was a bomb. What's this? $3,000, I said. For your surgery. His face twisted hope, confusion, guilt. I don't know. Why would you? Because I won't have your health on my conscience, but don't mistake this for forgiveness. It's closure. They didn't say thank you. They moved out on day 5 barely, took everything they could, even the microwave, the washer, and the dryer items that were clearly listed as part of the property. They left behind holes in the walls, broken blinds, a shattered mirror, and bags of trash. My property manager documented it all. The total in damages over $4,000. I added it to the spreadsheet. Not because I expected to be paid, but because truth matters, even when it's ignored. Then came the charges. Trevor and Megan were both hit with misdemeanor fraud for the airline incident. Trevor claimed he thought the ticket was gifted, that there was a misunderstanding. The district attorney saw through it but offered a plea deal, probation community service fines. Trevor, $5,000 fine, 200 hours of community service, 1 year probation. Megan, $2,500 fine, 100 hours of service. No jail, but the conviction stuck, the real consequence. It showed up in job applications. Megan lost a marketing job offer when the background check came back. Trevor's consulting firm lost whatever few leads he had left. The so-called visionary had to sell his fake Rolex for $500 to cover Dubai fallout expenses. The TSA agent who let Trevor board the plane was fired. Emirates implemented stricter ID protocols. My attorney called it poetic. You paid for a lesson the airline industry will remember longer than your family ever respected you. Weeks passed, then months. I never heard from them again. Until I did. 1 year to the week after Dubai, I got a text, a new number, a familiar voice. Hi, it's your mom. We've been thinking a lot. We were hoping we could talk, maybe meet. I said yes. Not because I wanted reconciliation, but because I wanted to see them one last time with clear eyes. They arrived at my door looking older. Megan was thinner circles under her eyes. My parents looked deflated, like the weight of consequence had finally caught up. Trevor gone. Dumped Megan 2 months after the eviction. Moved on to dating a restaurateur's daughter. We sat across from each other at my kitchen table. Mom tried to smile. We've been doing a lot of thinking. About everything. About you. About how we treated you. Megan stayed silent. Arms crossed. Eyes red. What do you want? I asked. They looked at each other. We need a place to stay, Dad said. Just for a little while until we get back on our feet. Same line, same playbook 4 years later. You disowned me, I reminded them. You said I was no longer your daughter, that I'd regret this for the rest of my life. Mom reached out. I pulled my hand back. Please, she whispered. We were scared. We didn't mean it. Yes, you did. You meant it the moment you thought someone else would take care of you. You meant it until every other bridge burned. Now I'm all that's left. Megan finally spoke. This is still about Dubai, isn't it? You're still bitter. I locked eyes with her. You lost your career because you committed fraud. You walked into someone else's dream trip and thought you could fake your way through it. Now you know what it's like when doors close because of what's on your record. They didn't argue. They didn't beg again. They just sat there. I stood up and handed my dad another envelope. This is the last money you'll ever receive from me. $3,000 for your surgery. After that, we're done. No more rescues, no more rent breaks, no more backup plans. His hands shook as he opened it. Mom's eyes filled with tears. Megan looked away. Thank you, Dad whispered. Don't call me your daughter, I said, walking them to the door. Not anymore. They drove away in silence, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel hollow. I didn't feel guilty. I felt clean, because sometimes cutting people off isn't cruelty. It's the beginning of your peace. It's been a year since I closed that door behind them, a full rotation of seasons. 100 mornings where I didn't wake up wondering who I had to save that day. My condo, fully repaired, rented to a young couple who pay on time and send me holiday cards with photos of their dog. There's no drama, no late-night texts, no guilt trips disguised as gratitude. I used the extra income to build something better myself. I got promoted to senior project manager overseeing all commercial builds over $750,000. I started mentoring 2 junior women in the department, bright, hungry, but constantly underestimated. I see myself in them. I tell them what no one told me. You don't owe anyone your exhaustion just because they share your last name. I finally booked the vacation. I wanted not to. Dubai, not to impress anyone. Just 2 weeks in Costa Rica, hiking, surfing, eating mango on the beach at sunrise, no itinerary, no group selfies, no followers to perform for. And for the first time, I felt free. Not because they apologized, not because justice was served, but because I finally realized closure doesn't come from them. It comes from walking away and meaning it. My cousin Laura keeps me updated, though I never ask. Turns out, my parents bounced from couch to couch after the eviction, stayed with an aunt until she got tired of footing their groceries, then with a second cousin who thought they just needed a little help until my mom maxed out his credit card on business supplies for her candle shop. They burned every bridge they stepped on. Megan, she tried to start an online business selling confidence coaching for women. It tanked in 3 months. She now lives with 2 roommates who are reportedly 1 month away from kicking her out for not paying utilities. Trevor gone. Ghosted. He's now dating the daughter of a local restaurant owner, trying to pitch her dad on some kind of immersive dining app that's basically just OpenTable with better fonts. My family now refers to me as the one who turned her back. They leave out the 4 years of subsidized rent, the $28,000 gift vacation, the fact that they committed identity fraud just to sneak their favorite parasite onto a plane. They've rewritten the story. But I haven't. I lived it. And I know who I am now. I'm not the bank. I'm not the backup plan. I'm not the one who sacrifices her peace just to keep other people comfortable. I'm the woman who finally stopped handing out lifeboats to people who set the fire in the first place. And if you've ever had to cut off your own family to save yourself, I want you to know you're not cruel, you're not cold, you're just done. Have you ever had to walk away from people who were supposed to protect you? Did they call it betrayal when you finally chose yourself? Drop your story in the comments. Let's talk about it. And if this hit close to home, hit that like button. Subscribe for more real stories, because sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is no more.